Hello and welcome to Investment Insight. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button. Now let's break down what's happening in the markets today in a clear and simple way. So right now, to build the future of artificial intelligence, the most advanced tech companies in the world are frantically buying up 19th century fossil fuel infrastructure.
Yeah, and they're even restarting dormant nuclear reactors from the 1970s,
Mhm.
which is just wild to think about.
It really is. It's like this pristine, quote-unquote, green era of big tech is just violently colliding with physical reality. And, the result is this massive paradox that's moving literally hundreds of billions of dollars to the markets right now.
It's a profound shift, honestly, in how we build infrastructure in this country. We're watching the actual definition of a green company get completely dismantled and then rebuilt in real time. Because for years, these big tech giants, they could rely on annual accounting tricks, basically, to look perfectly sustainable on paper. But training and running these new AI models, it requires a scale of power that completely breaks those old accounting models.
It just shatters them.
Exactly. It is forcing the tech industry to finally confront the harsh physical limitations of the 2047 American power grid.
Which brings us to the massive news that really triggered this whole deep dive today. Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, they recently dropped out of this major global green energy initiative called RE100.
Right, which was a huge deal.
Huge. And if you just scan the headlines, the narrative seems pretty simple, right? Like Meta is giving up on the environment because AI is this shiny new toy and they want it now.
That's definitely the spin you see on social media.
Exactly. But looking through the recent market analysis and corporate data up to July 30th, 2026, the mechanics of what actually happened down in Louisiana, well, they paint a much more complex picture, and frankly, a far more fascinating one for anyone trying to understand where technology, energy, and the economy are all intersecting.
Yeah, to really grasp the magnitude of this exit, you have to look at Meta's track record first. They joined the RE100 initiative way back in 2016.
And what is that exactly, for someone who hasn't heard of it?
So RE100 is run by this group called the Climate Group, and the core requirement for joining is a strict commitment to match 100% of your electricity consumption with renewables. And Meta wasn't just a casual member, they were like the poster child for this thing.
Right, they really pushed it.
By 2020, they had actually successfully achieved that 100% renewable match.
So they hit the goal, they did it.
They did.
But then, in July 2026, they voluntarily walked away. And it all centers on this brand new project, the Hyperion AI Data Center in Louisiana. Meta realized that to power this massive new campus, they needed to partner with the local utility down there, Energy Louisiana, on an energy deal that honestly, it's hard to wrap your head around the scale of it.
The scale is staggering. The agreement includes adding 7 new natural gas-powered plants to the local grid.
7?
7 brand new plants.
Yeah.
Totaling over 5.2 gigawatts of power.
And just for context, for you listening, 5.2 gigawatts, that is enough to power multiple major American cities, just for this one project.
Yeah, it's a small country's worth of power. Now, they are also including up to 2.5 gigawatts of solar, plus battery storage and major transmission upgrades in that exact same deal.
Yeah.
But the anchor of this massive expansion, the thing actually making it work, is natural gas.
And adding brand new natural gas plants is a direct violation of RE100's strict technical criteria.
Yeah, exactly. The Climate Group has very rigid rules about this. You can't just build fossil fuel plants and stay in the club. So after several rounds of discussions, Meta basically had to leave the initiative.
But it's important to note they haven't abandoned their internal 2030 net zero climate goals. They're just shifting to what they call an all-of-the-above strategy. So gas, solar, nuclear, batteries, whatever works.
Because AI requires massive amounts of power right this second. They literally cannot wait for an idealized green grid to be built, a decade from now.
Right. And I think the best way to visualize this shift, especially if you're new to the energy market, is to compare that old RE100 model to a diet based entirely on weekly calorie counting.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, so imagine your goal is to eat 14,000 calories a week. Under the old accounting rules, you could eat absolutely nothing for 3 days, just starve. And then on Sunday, you binge 14,000 calories of perfectly healthy food. When you check your spreadsheet at the end of the week, it balances perfectly. You hit your goal.
Right. On paper, you consume the exact correct volume of healthy energy for the week.
Exactly. But an AI data center is not a spreadsheet. It is a living, breathing, incredibly hungry teenager that needs to eat every single hour of the day. You cannot just buy that teenager 100 apples on Tuesday, starve them the rest of the week, and say, well, I did my job, the math works.
No, they'd tear the house apart.
Right. The teenager needs sustenance continuously, and AI needs intense electricity 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without a single microsecond of interruption.
And that analogy hits the core conflict we are looking at today so perfectly. It's the massive gap between annual green energy matching and the 247 physical reality of the power grid.
The actual physics of it.
Yes. Energy analysts refer to this gap as the timing wedge. Because under the old rules, a company like Meta could buy a massive amount of solar energy that's produced in the middle of the day in a state like Texas, right?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And then they use those green credits to offset the power their data center in Louisiana consumes in the middle of the night.
But the sun isn't shining at night in Louisiana or Texas.
Exactly. And electricity, unless you have absolutely massive utility-scale batteries, it cannot be put in a cardboard box and saved for later. It has to be used immediately.
Right, because the grid operates like a highly pressurized water pipe system, basically.
That's exactly it.
Mhm.
Supply and demand have to match perfectly, down to the millisecond, to maintain the frequency of the U.S. power grid.
Yeah.
If you pull water out of the pipe at night, someone has to be pumping water in at that exact same moment.
So when the sun goes down, that AI data center in Louisiana is still humming. It is running massive calculations for large language models all night long.
Yep.
And the electrons keeping those servers cool and running, they're actually being generated by burning fossil fuels at the local utility level.
Because that's what's available at 2 a.m.
Right. So they were buying a paper certificate for solar produced at noon in one place, while physically burning coal or gas at midnight in another place, but claiming to be 100% green globally.
It's an accounting illusion.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a fascinating 2026 market study we reviewed that modeled this exact scenario. It found that if massive new AI data centers rely solely on these annual green certificates, which are known as RECs, or renewable energy certificates, it can actually trigger an increase in local fossil fuel consumption.
Wait, really? It makes it worse.
It can, yeah, because it puts tremendous unexpected strain on the local grid infrastructure at night. And that strain forces the utility to run older, dirtier gas or coal plants harder, which can actually drive up wholesale power prices for the everyday people living in that town.
But let me push back slightly on that just to play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Because those RECs, those certificates, they did serve a vital purpose, didn't they?
Oh, absolutely.
Like in the early days, those certificates gave solar developers the guaranteed cash flow they needed to build the initial wave of green energy in this country. So isn't any continued investment in solar still a net positive? Why force Meta out if they are still funding, 2.5 gigawatts of solar alongside the gas?
Well, you're right. The REC system was indeed crucial for kickstarting the renewable industry 10 years ago. We wouldn't have the solar we have today without it. But the issue now is really a crisis of public trust and just sheer scale.
How so?
Well, if a trillion-dollar tech company builds an AI facility that literally forces a local municipality to construct a brand new gas plant just to keep the neighborhood's lights from flickering, buying a cheap green certificate from a wind farm 3 states away doesn't change the physical reality on the ground.
Right. That town still has a new smokestack pumping out emissions in their backyard.
Exactly. RE100 realized that allowing companies to build new fossil fuel infrastructure while flashing this pristine 100% renewable badge based on paper certificates, it would just destroy the initiative's credibility. So they chose to enforce strict physics over keeping a prestigious brand name on their roster.
Wow. So they chose integrity over the PR win.
They did.
But flipping that around, why would Meta voluntarily take the public relations hit? I mean, they have PR teams. They know walking away from a major climate pledge invites a massive wave of negative press.
To understand that, you just have to follow the capital expenditures. That tells the whole story.
Right.
The financial stakes of the global AI race have grown so astronomically high that waiting for a perfect 100% green energy solution is viewed as a literal existential threat to the business.
It's life or death for them.
Exactly.
Let's actually look at Meta's earnings report from July 29th, 2026, because the numbers are wild. The top-line numbers look phenomenal, right? Revenue is up 28% year over year, but their free cash flow plummeted 91%,
Just fell off a cliff.
dropping from $8.55 billion down to just $784 million. And if you're a beginner listening, free cash flow is basically the cash a company has left over after paying for its operating expenses and capital expenditures. A 91% drop is the kind of massive cash burn that usually terrifies Wall Street.
Oh, usually that causes a massive stock sell-off.
But it vanished because Meta projected their capital expenditures, so spending on physical assets, for the year to hit between $130 billion and $145 billion.
Which is just an unbelievable amount of money. I mean, that is more than the gross domestic product of many countries being poured entirely into physical infrastructure. We're talking about advanced liquid cooling systems, massive clusters of specialized GPUs, and the heavy electrical equipment required to run them.
Right, the concrete, the steel, wires.
Yes. Historically, how a tech company sourced its power was essentially like a side quest. It was managed by the sustainability department. Today, securing firm baseload power is the single largest physical bottleneck determining whether a company can even compete in AI.
Which brings us to the natural gas element in Louisiana, because they aren't building those gas plants just because natural gas is, like, cheap.
No, not at all. They're building them for speed and certainty. A gigawatt-scale data center requires firm, uninterrupted power. Permitting a massive new solar farm, getting the environmental clearances, and building the high-voltage transmission lines to connect it, I mean, that can take 5 to 10 years in some jurisdictions.
10 years in tech is basically a century.
Exactly. But when you need 5.2 gigawatts right now, natural gas is basically the only option that offers that kind of speed. And frankly, if you look at the current regulatory environment under the Trump administration, it's heavily focused on domestic energy independence and really streamlining natural gas infrastructure.
Right.
So that makes the permitting process for a massive gas plant in a state like Louisiana significantly smoother than trying to, say, string a new high-voltage renewable transmission line across multiple state borders.
It's just less red tape. So Meta decided that speed wins, and they accepted the reality of natural gas. But they are competing against Microsoft, Google, and Amazon for the exact same AI dominance. Are the others taking that same fossil fuel shortcut, or are they finding a different way around this physics problem?
It's really interesting because Microsoft is taking a fascinating and highly aggressive alternative route. On paper, they are maintaining their annual RE100 goals. They purchased a staggering 40 gigawatts of renewables globally.
Okay.
But Microsoft also set a much stricter internal goal to be 247 carbon-free on an hourly basis by 2030.
So every single hour has to be green.
Yes. And to achieve that without relying on natural gas at night, they're turning to nuclear energy. They're spending upwards of $50 billion in CapEx next quarter alone, and they're even signing unprecedented contracts to help restart the dormant 3 Mile Island nuclear plant.
Wait, restarting 3 Mile Island, the plant from the 1970s?
Yep, the very same one.
Just the name alone carries so much historical weight in America. It really proves how desperate this search for firm, carbon-free baseload power has become.
It absolutely does.
So what about Google? How are they handling it?
Google is also committed to that strict 2047 hourly matching model. They are securing their own nuclear power, specifically from the Duane Arnold plant up in Iowa. And they're investing heavily in advanced geothermal energy, which is great because it provides steady power, unlike intermittent wind or solar.
Right, the Earth is always hot.
Exactly. However, Google is currently failing to actually reduce its total footprint. Their emissions are actually rising significantly right now.
Wait, if they're buying nuclear and geothermal, why are their emissions rising?
It's primarily due to Scope 3 emissions.
Ah, okay. And just to clarify, Scope 3 is the carbon emitted during the actual construction and supply chain phases, right? Because we often forget that before a data center even computes its first algorithm, you have to pour thousands of tons of concrete, you have to smelt the steel for the server racks, and manufacture millions of microchips. All of those industrial processes are incredibly carbon intensive.
Exactly the point. The physical footprint of building the cloud is just massive.
Yeah.
Now, meanwhile, Amazon is leveraging its dominant AWS cloud infrastructure using kind of a mixed strategy.
Playing all sides.
Pretty much. They claimed an early victory on the old RE100 annual matching. But physically, they are powering AWS data centers with a mix of natural gas, existing nuclear, and they are heavily exploring small modular reactors, or SMRs.
Now, SMRs are interesting because unlike traditional massive nuclear plants that take, 20 years and billions of dollars to build on-site, SMRs are designed to be built in a factory and shipped to the location.
Right, on a truck or a train.
It drastically lowers the capital risk, so that covers the big cloud providers. Then you have Apple, who kind of sits completely outside the specific arms race.
Yeah, Apple is the outlier here because they don't operate a massive public-facing AI cloud computing service like AWS or Microsoft Azure. Their energy challenge doesn't revolve around gigawatt data centers in Louisiana. It revolves around their manufacturing supply chain in Asia.
Hmm.
The actual energy required to assemble iPhones and fabricate silicon.
Right. So if you step back and look at the whole board, the era of the simple green badge is officially over. A company claiming to be 100% renewable doesn't mean much anymore unless you ask, what time of day is that power generated?
Mhm.
Are you physically replacing fossil fuels on the local grid or just trading paper certificates?
Exactly. The metrics have fundamentally changed.
But I want to pivot to the market mechanics here, because if you are listening to this, you're probably wondering, if big tech is unleashing hundreds of billions of dollars in capital expenditures, where is that money actually flowing? What are the opportunities?
Well, the scale of demand is creating unprecedented bottlenecks. According to recent analysis, the U.S. Energy Information Administration projects U.S. electricity consumption is going to jump from 4.19 trillion kilowatt hours in 2025 up to 4.39 trillion kilowatt hours in 2027.
That is a massive jump for a developed country.
It is. And that spike is almost entirely driven by AI data centers and the broader push for electrification.
Now, if you're a beginner looking at your portfolio right now, building more solar panels might seem like the obvious, intuitive play to capture all that demand, right? Like, we need more power, let's build more solar.
It seems highly intuitive, but it is actually currently a value trap.
A value trap. Why?
Because generating the power isn't the primary problem anymore. Because solar only generates power when the sun is shining. It floods the grid with electricity all at the exact same time. When supply massively outstrips demand at noon, wholesale electricity prices just crash. Sometimes they even go negative.
Wow, negative prices.
Yeah. This means the profit margins for companies manufacturing solar panels are continually shrinking due to sheer oversupply during daylight hours.
That makes sense. I was reading about a phenomenon called the duck curve in the data, which perfectly illustrates this.
Oh, the duck curve is classic.
Yeah. So in places with heavy solar penetration, solar production peaks at noon when demand is relatively low. That creates the belly of the duck on a graph. But when the sun sets, that solar production drops to zero right at the exact moment everyone gets home from work, turns on their air conditioning, and cooks dinner.
Right.
That steep drop in supply against a massive spike in evening demand is the neck of the duck, and it's where the grid is most vulnerable.
The duck curve highlights exactly why the real economic value has shifted away from generation and directly into timing and delivery. The single biggest bottleneck in the U.S. energy market right now isn't solar panels, it's the transmission grid.
The wire.
The wires. You can build the most efficient solar farm in the world, but if you cannot connect it to the grid, it is worthless. The backlog in the interconnection queues is literally years long right now, and we are facing a severe global shortage of the specialized, grain-oriented electrical steel required to build high-voltage transformers.
Which brings up a great analogy. Think of it like a highway. Building a data center and a solar farm without transmission lines is like building a $1 million sports car and a giant mansion, but completely forgetting to pave a road between them.
That's exactly what it's like.
So the people making the most reliable money right now might just be the ones paving the roads and building the traffic lights.
Yes, that is where the hidden market opportunities lie. It's the unglamorous hardware, the transformers, the high-voltage cables, the switch gears, and the substations. The companies manufacturing the physical arteries of the power grid are sitting on years of backlogged orders.
That is fascinating. What about batteries?
Well, the other critical infrastructure play is absolutely battery storage. Batteries are the only physical way to flatten that duck curve. We have to capture that cheap, oversupplied solar at noon and discharge it into the grid at 7 p.m. when the data centers are still pulling maximum power, but the sun is down.
So it basically transitions battery storage from like a nice-to-have green accessory into mandatory critical infrastructure.
Absolutely mandatory. The immediate market demand is for utility-scale lithium-ion batteries that can discharge for 2 to 4 hours during that exact evening peak.
And I imagine managing all of that requires some serious software, too.
Oh, heavily. Managing that complex dance is creating a massive secondary market for software. Balancing a grid that pulls from solar at noon, batteries at dusk, and nuclear or natural gas at midnight, all while keeping a multi-billion-dollar AI cluster perfectly cooled, is fundamentally a data problem.
Right.
Energy management software companies that orchestrate that real-time load balancing are perfectly positioned to secure incredibly sticky, recurring revenue.
Well, we've covered a tremendous amount of ground today, so let's distill this deep dive down to the core insights for you listening. The headline of Meta leaving the RE100 initiative is not a story about big tech abandoning green energy. It is a story about the collision between accounting models and physics.
Exactly.
Training artificial intelligence requires massive 247 firm power, and the sheer scale of that demand is forcing a shift away from paper certificates and toward actual physical grid stability.
And this transition is creating a massive infrastructure boom. The capital is flowing away from simple renewable generation and pouring directly into the bottlenecks. So battery storage, transmission hardware like transformers, and firm baseload power sources like nuclear and natural gas.
Which leaves us with one final multi-billion-dollar question to ponder. We know that big tech is relying heavily on natural gas right now as a bridge fuel because it offers the speed they desperately need. But a natural gas power plant is a massive installation of concrete and steel designed to operate for 30 to 40 years.
Right. So if we fast forward to the year 2040 or 2050, which is the exact time frame when these tech giants have publicly promised their shareholders they will be entirely carbon-free, what happens to the gas plants they are building today?
Do they just shut them down decades before the end of their operational lifespan, writing them off as massive stranded assets?
Or are they quietly betting that a major breakthrough in carbon capture technology will arrive in time to attach to those smokestacks and save their investments?
It is an incredible gamble on the future pace of both AI development and energy engineering, and it is reshaping the physical landscape of the country right now. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button.